Halo teman-teman, welcome back to Anak Jaksel, Anak Kampung podcast. Namaku Anak Kampung, and I'm here with siapa?
I'm Anak Jaxel, and we have a special guest today.
We do. We have Mister Lucky in the house.
Anak di Madura, aku pikir. Um, yeah, I'm Gavin Lucky. I'm a friend of the podcast. You want to introduce me, Dave?
Yeah, he's a friend of the podcast. Gavin was a Peace Corps volunteer with me in Indonesia from 2015 to 2017, long time ago. And he was in Madura when I
Hmm.
was in Pangandaran. And
Hmm.
during that time, Gavin never went to Jakarta. Did you?
No, I didn't. And I'm still, 10 years after the fact, trying to figure out why that never happened. But as you know, I was living very close to Surabaya.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got attached to going to Surabaya. There was never a strong enough reason to make the trip out. And you were out in Surabaya often enough,
Yeah, yeah.
I never felt the need to go that far. So yeah, I did go to Jakarta, but very recently, only about a year ago, really for the first time, and loved it. I have to say, had a fantastic time in Jakarta. But yeah, so my experience of Indonesia was very different because I think for definitely for you guys, the defining experience of living in Indonesia is sort of dealing with Jakarta as a city. Whereas for me, it was more like, oh, there's that place over there. It would sort of be like living on the East Coast and never getting to New York. I feel like I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's like I've never been to New York other than like JFK, and I mean, it still is. It's kind of that same thing where like there's this really cool city that's in my own country that I've never been to, that I have no experience with. And yeah, I'll get there one day, but
Hmm.
I'm in no hurry to get there.
And we both had the same experience. I mean, Dave, we've talked about this before. We both had the same experience. When I finally got there, I think I called you on the phone. I was in the taxi. There's the Bapak with the music on. I'm like, oh, I'm back, And I think I called Dave and I went, Dave, holy shit, I'm driving in from the airport in Jakarta. I went, holy shit, it's Houston.
Yeah, it is. It's so much like Houston. It's
Yeah. Can
crazy.
you
You
just
could,
explain that? Because I think there are going to be listeners who have no idea what the hell we're talking about.
yeah. So Jakarta is a lot bigger than Houston in terms of population. Jakarta
Hmm.
has like 40 million people. Maybe Texas has close to 40 million people, probably less than that. I think 36, 37. So Jakarta has more people than the whole state. But the sprawl of Jakarta and the concrete and the weather, and you have part of the city that's more industrial, part of the city that's very nice and developed, part of the city that is not so nice. You have different ethnicities from all over the world, lots of really good, delicious food. And
Hmm.
neither place is really a tourist destination, but they do punch way above their weight, but you have to dig into the actual cities to really appreciate them. And that's kind of where I think a lot of people they miss out on going to Indonesia and not experiencing Jakarta because it is a really, really cool city. But it's just, I think for a lot of people, they go, this is too hard. It's too big of a challenge. And I'd rather go and sit on the beach for 5 days instead of going exploring this really cool, crazy concrete jungle. I mean, Anak Jaksel, you lived there.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you're two Americans talking about your great American cities, and then I've actually been to New York for a minute, and yeah, that was the first thing that happened to me as well when I was driving from the airport for the first time in 2022. I was like,
Hmm.
what the hell is this? This is like Manhattan, especially when I entered the southern part and the central part. I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, that's the Big Apple right there. And then later on, I learned it was the Big Durian. So it figures out. It stinks somewhere sometimes, but it's pretty much the same thing. A lot of cultures, a lot of great buildings, and
Yeah.
the history. I guess mafia runs things, used to run things in New York as well. So
Yeah.
it's pretty much the same thing, and I love the city. I adore it, and it's probably top three, top five city for me in the whole world that I visited. And yeah, it's not a coincidence that I used to live there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean it again, it's a shame it took me so long to get out there because I mean you hear a lot of things from a lot of different people. It's some of them I mean they all say what you just said, Leo. Some of them say it as a positive, some of them say it as a negative. Because depending on who you are, it's going to be positive or negative. For me, all of those things are positive. I mean, I love all of that. So, okay, sign me up. Where do I go? It was just never on the way. I could never get there. And also at the time, I mean, Dave, you'll harken back to the days of being a poor volunteer where you're like, do I really want to pay for a plane ticket from Surabaya?
Hmm.
So the alternative is you take the bus.
Yep.
Well, I tell you, by the time you get off that bus, you're not complaining about traffic.
No.
You've
The,
just
the
gone off the
buses are supposedly
longest
a lot
bus
better now,
ride.
but still, like, it's ridiculous.
I don't know. Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? I have not been on a bus in Indonesia in 8 years. So I couldn't say. I will tell you that my experience of public transportation would suggest that that would be the longest ride of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. And only time I took the bus to Jakarta was the first time that I went, and I showed up at Kampung Rambutan.
Ooh.
And that is not the part of Jakarta you want to show up in. And I think had I not spoken any Bahasa Indonesia, I would have been absolutely, what am I doing here? I'm scared. Get me out. This place is intimidating. It smells. There's scary people following me. I don't want to be here right now. And
And you're talking about the satay vendors, right?
yeah, the satay guys.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
satay Madura, who are actually really, really kind. But all you've
Oh,
got to do is
they're the
smile and
friendliest people in the world unless you owe the money.
yeah, you don't want to get on the
Competitiveness.
don't want to get on
Or
that bad
or
side.
or you're trying to muscle in on their turf.
Mm.
Um the satay
Satay bule
wars.
Madura,
The
probably
satay
not.
wars. Don't want
Yeah,
to get involved in that. Anyway, so you're in Rambutan. It's
yeah,
late at night.
yes,
You're scared out of your mind. What
yeah.
what else is going on?
So it wasn't super late. It was about Maghrib.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So five
Can
five
you
thirty,
can you
six
explain
o'clock.
that? Can you explain that for 5 seconds?
Yeah, so it's right before the sun goes down,
And
and
it's an Islamic
It's
prayer.
an Islamic
It's the
prayer. It's
call to
one of the most
prayer.
important
It
prayers
probably
of the
the most
day.
important. Yeah. And that's the fourth.
Hmm.
Because that
Yep,
the fifth is after, but
yep.
that's the fourth call to prayer of the day. It's very important. This is also, I think, probably something that marks us as orang di kampung. Is your whole day is it Maghrib? Is it after Maghrib?
Hmm.
Is it the first one in the morning
Yep.
at 3:30 with the chickens?
Hmm.
Um,
Sholat Zuhur,
oh yeah.
11:30, Sholat Jumat.
Oh my gosh, the memories are coming back.
Yes.
But yeah, because I mean, certainly in my village, I'm sure in yours as well, everything just stops.
Yep. Yep. Everything
Yeah,
does. Even in Jakarta, like stuff will slow down a little bit, but
but
still, it picks
again,
right back
I
up.
don't know. I defer to you, gentlemen. Uh, that surely depends on what part of Jakarta you're in.
Yes.
100%. Yeah, for
Did
sure.
you
I mean,
just want to talk about the diversity of the neighborhoods for a while? Because it fascinated me while I was there. Because the obvious things for a visitor. It's all very tightly packed in. It's an
Mhm.
incredibly dense city. So you'll have very disparate populations of people, as you were talking about in the comparison with New York, which I think is very apt in this regard. They're right next to each other. So could you guys just talk about that? Because it is endlessly fascinating for me.
Definitely. I mean, everything is virtually following the culture, right? So,
Hmm.
but for example, it's true that it's quite diverse on the area,
Hmm.
how it is, you know. So you have areas that are in, let's say, West Jakarta or East Jakarta that are
Hmm.
just following the traditional Indonesian or Muslim ways, right? But
Hmm.
then you have like South Jakarta and Central Jakarta, and it's almost like you don't feel that there is anything going on because it's just the tempo
Hmm.
is normal, and you don't really feel the religion around. I,
Hmm.
I mean, of course you do. At 4 or 5 in the morning, you hear the call to prayer, but after like 2 weeks, you get used to it and you don't hear it anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing. But it's true that you have like some signs of it, and especially,
Hmm.
for example, during Ramadan, it's quite different. I
Hmm.
used to feel it certainly because I worked in restaurants, right? So we would have like different suppers that we would prepare for breaking the fast. That was like the big thing for a month, and a buffet, and it's just different dynamic, and especially
Hmm.
the laws, right? You, Jakarta is like a metropolitan city. You have the alcohol, you have everything, right?
Yeah.
But during the Ramadan, everything stops. So it's actually illegal to serve and sell alcohol in restaurant even. So, you have to find ways to do it.
Yeah. I
Yep.
you'll
We'll
appreciate
put the we'll
this.
put the curtain up.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
that's
the curtain up or the partition, or
Yeah.
you're
yeah,
gonna love this, Leo. So the first year I was there, I had a friend come up who was, of all the things, he'd been serving an apprenticeship in a winery in New Zealand.
right.
And he flew up to see, he was on his way to Bali, of course. He wasn't spending a lot of time in Surabaya, but he showed up in Surabaya and I went, you know what? It's Ramadan. I don't want you to, be deprived. Let's find some beer. And there was you will not be surprised. There was a Chinese restaurant about four doors down that did have alcohol, but they would only serve it to you in tea mugs.
This was the Chinese place that we went to all the
Exactly.
time, right?
Yeah, this was a Chinese barbecue place. That was fantastically good. But
Oh
during
man.
Ramadan, there were certain procedures that had to be followed. So you would go, do you have beer? Yeah, we have beer. Only tea mugs, sir. Sorry. So yeah, and it would be the whole thing where the guy's looking around,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it does. It is funny because, like you said, my experience, because again, I showed up, I was real center of the Kota, and there was a weird thing for me where I had to keep reminding myself I was in Indonesia.
yeah.
And you believe me, there are plenty of reminders, but sometimes you're just like, but this is just no, it's just too again, it's too cosmopolitan, it's too big, it's too shiny, there are too many people driving around in these great big buildings, but it is still the same country, and you
Yeah.
do get reminded of that very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the scale of the place is just difficult, or it was difficult for me to take in because again, it's not that I wasn't used to big. Surabaya is not a small city. Um, but I do believe it's now the largest metropolitan area in the world. It beat Tokyo,
Yeah,
which
yeah, it's
which
like
I'm sure
40.
people were celebrating.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think Jakarta has more people than Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. I think it's like Jakarta has like 41.9 million and Canada has like 41.3 or something like that, which is
I
insane.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. but it's one thing to hear that number, and it's another to go, oh, like these people are in an area that's what, like probably less than the size of Connecticut.
Yeah. I have no idea
Like
how big. Yeah,
what's
probably
Rhode
like the size of
Island?
Houston.
I'm
Yeah, like
it's
Rhode
not
Island or
big.
Connecticut or
Yeah.
one of those smaller
It's
states.
it's not big. So it just, that definitely creates its own sort of environment. But yeah, I can't imagine working. I mean, man, working in the restaurant business in Jakarta. You must have some great stories.
Yeah.
Oh, there are stories that shouldn't be told, I guess. But
I'm sure.
Subscribers only.
yeah. Subscribe, and it's
After dark.
pay-per-view.
Jam tengah
WWE.
malam. Anak kampung, anak jaksa, tengah malam.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that I really relate with the tip thingy. So the alcohol in tea mugs and stuff,
Yeah.
because it's quite difficult in a sense where I worked with bules mostly. That was
Hmm.
kind of my 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 territory when I came to Jakarta. I started going to all of the expat and bule events, networking, meetups. So
Hmm.
I started doing a lot of events with those groups that I met, right, and connected with. So it's quite difficult because yes, of course, there is a lot of diplomats in Jakarta, as
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
usual for that kind of city. But then you have also a lot of people from uh, from the big companies or multinationals and so on. So you have quite a large pool of foreigners. And the thing is that, of course, usually foreigners are quite well behaved, especially expats, because we see a lot of things and we're used to cultural differences, right?
Hmm.
And we are quite easy to adapt to new situations. But then sometimes you still expect some kind of comfort, right? And in restaurant, for example, that showed especially during Ramadan because you would you would have customers that are like diplomats or whatever people of business, and they would order a bottle of wine or bottle of whiskey that is, I don't know, worth a fortune for a more than one local salary, right? And
Hmm.
during Ramadan you cannot do much, so you have to go and explain them that they are gonna drink wine that is like, I don't know, 300 400 euros a bottle
Oh,
out of a coffee mug or a tea mug, and you're like, fuck, I don't know what to do, right? And there is nothing really you can do, because
yeah.
you have to be careful about your business, but then you have to also be good to your customer,
Well,
and
particularly if they're ponying up that much, you
Yeah.
don't want to go,
exactly,
no, sir, it's Ramadan. What are you thinking?
Hmm.
exactly,
Oh, so
yeah.
yeah. So I guess the grand compromise is the teacup.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I used to bring them to a private room or something like that. So
Yeah.
I give them some space, and I had a guy on alert at all times if someone walks in. But what do you do? And then I had fights over that, and it's just unfortunate. I cannot do much. I'm like, I can do it, but you have to sit there at the other place then. And they're like, no, 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 we want the sofa. So I'm like, okay, that's too bad. But then, yeah,
Oh.
we bought extra teapots for whiskey. So that
Who
was
wants some more tea, madam?
exactly, that tea is banging, and like we had live music and everything. And
The best Earl Grey I've
Yeah.
ever had.
exactly, man.
Oh,
How is
I
that?
love it.
And now, everyone was
Earl
like,
Grey on the
"Oh, I want some more tea. Which one do you want? Breakfast tea?" And it's like, okay, Singleton 15. That's very funny, and yeah, that
Oh,
that that's that's Ramadan for you, in a drinking uh, venue, which is very funny.
well, yeah. I mean, and then, Dave, I know you could imbibe in areas around Pangandaran.
Yeah.
Um, But for me, I really had to go to Surabaya because where I was in Bangkalan, the Kabupaten, and that was a dry territory. I mean, that was year round. You couldn't get anything. So that was a part, unfortunately, that was a part of the country where you really had more. When you heard about alcohol, it was almost invariably because someone had been poisoned. I mean, which you know is a serious problem in that part of the country because again, it's dry. If you're caught with it, you will go to jail. Um, and I mean, how the enforcement actually was, I have no idea. But you know, so it's some bapak in the back of the village in a bathtub, you know, throwing some longons in and going, "This is going to taste real good." And then, you know, you read in the paper a week later, 15 people went blind. And it's pretty horrible, but it does happen, unfortunately. And I mean, not just in Indonesia, in the country where I live, in India, that happens as well, usually in rural areas where it's hard to get, or as you said, not just hard to get, exorbitantly expensive. I mean, when you're talking about alcohol in Indonesia, it's not always just a matter of can you get it, will they sell it to you? It's also can, you know, Joe Schmo afford it? And, you know, unless it's the Bintang special or Bintang Especial, it's kind of hard to get your hands on, really, in most parts of the country. And even, I mean, we could have a whole conversation about Bintang that'll get us all into a lot of trouble. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, not that I didn't drink it. I drank a lot of it. Would I drink it now? Sans firearms to my head? Don't know. I'd have
You
to think
would.
about that. I had too many experiences where, again, what's the advantage of Bintang? When you serve it cold and it's really hot outside, God, it's wonderful. It's just a wonderful beer when it's hot outside. And it really is. It's a great warm weather beer. When is Bintang not good? When it's been in the sun all day long because someone forgot it on the truck and went, oh, it's okay. The glasses are cold, except the glasses aren't cold. You put them in the fridge for 30 minutes.
And that's
And
Pangandaran Bintang.
that's Bintang all over the world. That's Bintang. There's some disappointed orang di kampung in Suriname on the river, you know, 1,000 miles from home, going, it tastes just like home. And it's lukewarm beer with ice cubes in it. Maybe a twist of lime.
Gavin, you just made me remember that first non-alcoholic Guinness we had on day one
Oh,
at
dude. This
Indomart.
I love how this has just turned into the drinking podcast. Um, so yes, so you have to set the scene, Dave. It's a beautiful story.
So we finished our first day of training in PST. So it was the very beginning of Peace Corps, March
And
2015.
we were
And
whacked
we were
out.
exhausted. We'd done
We
our
were
first
totally
class,
exhausted.
Bahasa Indonesia, and we'd had culture training or we'd had medical stuff. I can't remember exactly what it
And
was.
we'd been there 2 weeks at that point,
I
or
don't
one
even think,
week.
I think it was, yeah, close to 1 week. So we'd done some stuff at
We'd been there a week.
UMM.
So we were all just incredibly jet lagged. We'd been spent a week in the dorms in UMM in Malang, and we were just like out of it. We're all out of it. We finally get to our village. Our Bahasa is still terrible. I mean, my Bahasa is still terrible, but our Bahasa was collectively not great at that point. We're in this village where, you know, me and Dave barely know each other, but we're like living, he's up the hill from me. We're the only people around. There were a few other people around, but not a ton. And we're on the side of this hill in the middle of nowhere, and we find, was it an Indo or an
Yep.
Alpha?
We found an Indomart, the Indomart Beiji,
All right.
and there's cars and there's Ancots and motorcycles going past us, and it's like you could get this
Chickens,
bright spotlight, and it's the oasis from heaven. So
air
we
conditioned. Oh
air
my
conditioning. We walk
God.
in there, we are ecstatic. This place is incredible. We go in and we go back and go, oh, they have non-alcoholic Guinness. And I remember we had a talk for a couple of minutes about should we actually buy the non-alcoholic Guinness to
This
toast.
was, there was a lot of talking about this. And we did.
Yep,
We purchased them. And
we
Dave,
did.
how was that experience?
Well, I remember Pooji told us, I think it was that morning, or yeah, it might have been that morning, that we could use the money to go get ice cream. And it was like, I think 15 or 20,000 rupiah. And I was like, I'm not spending that money
We
on
should have
ice
spent it
cream.
on the ice
I'm
cream, is
gonna
all
go
I'm
get a
gonna
beer.
say.
And yes, we should have bought
We
an
should have
ice
spent it.
cream. We should have bought ice cream.
Listeners, if just a word of advice, if you have some strange addiction to sweetened malt and you're horrifically mentally diseased that way, then yes, go buy go buy the Guinness they sell at the Indomaret. That's a good way to spend your time. I mean, I don't know if we did. Did we do an actual spit take? Because I feel like we did.
Yes, we did.
We did.
We did. And
It was
neither
a
we
full comedy.
that beer did not get finished.
And I think one of us, it might have, I forget which one. One of us tried and was like, this is actually disgusting. It's one of the worst, it's still one of the worst beverages I've ever tasted.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was day one. That was day one in the village.
Yep.
That was a preview.
It got better. That was day one in the
It
lowest
did.
point,
It
and it got
definitely
so much better.
it
It
got
got
so
so much
much better
better.
after that. But good Lord, that was not a great way to start. That was, and I've had, I mean, this is heresy. I've had good non-alcoholic beer. It exists. It's out there. It's in the world. This was so far from that. It was so far from everything. It was far, far from God, really. I mean, it was just vile. And we hadn't yet fully connected the dots that you cannot have a beverage in Indonesia without adding a full sack of sugar into whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's supposed to be sweet or if it's supposed to be savory or if it's hot or if it's cold. Doesn't make a difference. There will be enough sugar to put a horse into glycemic shock. It's just going to be there. And we hadn't figured that out yet. I think if they hadn't put that much sugar in it, it might have been drinkable.
Mm,
But I guess we'll never really know.
yeah. I'm not trying that again. I'm scarred for life.
Guys, you
I
sound
vividly,
you
vividly
sound
remember.
like kampung people. Yeah, come on. In Jakarta, I never had a bad drink.
You
What
were
are you talking about,
spoiled.
guys?
You were spoiled.
Yeah,
You
Joxel.
had no
Joxel.
idea.
Oh my
It
God.
it in the kampung you had to travel 3 hours to get a beer and it's lukewarm. Flies swimming
Well,
around in it.
I mean, I have experience with lukewarm beer and like bad beer and so on. I agree
It's
with you
bad.
100%. I have that experience, but in a sense of like other drinks, I'm Jakarta is great. So,
I'm
you know,
sure.
Yeah.
it's
I'm
the thing
sure.
is that the first the first day I came to Jakarta, I went to a burger place. So I was like,
Mm.
I've got no idea what's going on. I'm tired, and so my first meal in Jakarta was burger and a beer, and it was a is it a crystal, right? It's a bintang crystal. So
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
I
that
boy.
know
was not
crystals.
bad. That was not bad.
No, no, that's actually, yeah. I mean, what we were just talking about this. What did we have, Dave?
For
What was one of the first? I don't know if it was the first, but it was one of the first. One of
my
the first meals we had.
the first thing I remember eating in Indonesia was my ibu's bakso.
No, 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 no. I remember because you brought it up like a day ago. We're at UMM and they gave us gado gado.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And that's the first proper meal I remember. It's like gado gado and of course te botol,
hmm
which you have to have with every meal. It's
Okay.
necessary.
Or
Um,
take less. You don't have the
man,
bottle.
I swear, if my first meal had been a burger and a bintang crystal, I probably never would have left.
That's what I'm talking about, man. You
Yeah,
know how
yeah.
hard it was to
I
leave?
mean, I would have been like, I'm here. You can't get me out.
I'm ascending. I'm gonna
That
say
was
four
not the
years.
case.
You know how hard it was to leave. One of the toughest things I did, leave Jakarta. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it is
And
hard. It really is hard to leave.
yeah, I feel like it's super, super difficult to like leave Indonesia or Jakarta because
Hmm.
just it has some spirit to it and it's a big deal on it has an impact on your life. I think the experience that you can have, it's like, okay, you go a little bit out of the city, you have some nature, you can hike, you can do whatever, but then if you
Hmm.
want to do all of the big city things, clubbing or just anything, you can also do it, right? And you can do it in all different specters of expensive, right? So you can find something for yourself in any case. And yeah.
Yeah, Jakarta has that sort of magical quality that you do have in those big Southeast Asian cities where it's just sort of the land of possibility. If you want it, it's there somewhere. Somewhere out in the wilderness. You got it.
Yeah,
But yeah.
and it's not turned into Bangkok or Singapore or KL where Jakarta's still as it's been for a very long time. I mean,
Hmm.
it's very Indonesian still at its core, and you've got people mostly there from all over Indonesia. You have a few expats, but I mean, you go to Bangkok or Ho Chi Minh City or KL. I mean, these places are full of tourists, and they've changed a lot. But Jakarta's still very much, I would say, Indonesian, and it makes it
And it,
cool.
I think it does. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this, which is it's got that interesting thing where because it's intimidating to people, I think it's kept a lot of what makes it an appealing place in the first place. That a lot of the places that you were talking about, not that they're not appealing, but they've sort of had to struggle to keep what makes them them. Uh, Jakarta, no, I'm not saying that there aren't struggles to sort of maintain that authenticity, but I think because of its rep, it has managed to sort of keep that core of what makes it a fascinating place.
100%. I agree. I think it's all in the city being what it is.
Hmm.
That makes any sense.
It
Yeah,
makes enough sense to me. Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense to us, so that's good enough.
Yeah,
It works. Okay.
That works.
that works. Well, guys, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a real pleasure, and we'll wish you all the success, and hopefully I'll hop back on at a later date. But
Yeah,
yeah, great to be here today.
absolutely. Thanks for jumping
100%.
on, Gavin.
Thanks, man. Yeah, looking forward to hear more stories from you, man, at another date. So thanks, man. Dave.
Thank you very much. Sampai jumpa.
Yeah, sampai jumpa, man.
Sampai Jumpa and check out Jakarta.